Detective McLean. They went into a conference room down the hall, and I could see through the window as she set up a laptop and pulled out a yellow notepad. Gary came back out and told me the detective was ready to talk to me, but we should wait for my mom. My hands were still shaking, and I kept thinking about Philip crying in that corner. The main doors burst open, and my mom rushed in, still wearing her work badge from the hospital. She grabbed me in a quick hug and asked if I was okay. I nodded, but she could tell I was scared. We walked together to the conference room where Detective McLean stood up and introduced herself with her full name, Rhoda McLean. She seemed nice but really professional as she explained she needed to understand exactly what happened this morning. Mom said she wanted to be present for any questions, and the detective agreed right away. She asked me to start from the beginning when Mrs. Osborne first locked the door. I told her about the screaming and the accusation about the prank call. I explained how Mrs. Osborne said her mom died from a heart attack. The detective wrote everything down and asked me to slow down a few times. When I got to the part about Philip confessing to me, she stopped writing and looked up. She asked me to repeat exactly what Philip said, word for word if I could remember. I closed my eyes and tried to remember his exact words about the dare and the $20 and wanting to be cool. She had me write it all down on a piece of paper while it was fresh in my mind. Through the conference room window, I could see the hallway getting more and more crowded. Parents were everywhere now, some of them yelling at the office staff. A security guard was trying to keep people calm, but it wasn't working. Someone must have called for a soft lockdown because I heard the announcement over the speakers telling all students and staff to remain in their classrooms. The detective asked me more questions about Aiden and if I'd ever seen him bully Philip before. I told her I didn't really know them that well, but Aiden was always doing stupid stuff to get attention. She asked about Mrs. Osborne too, if she'd ever acted strange before today. I said no. She was actually one of the nicest teachers before this happened. The interview took about 40 minutes total. When we finished, the detective thanked me and said I'd been really helpful. She gave my mom her business card in case we remembered anything else. Mom and I went back to the main office to sign me out, but the secretary said we needed to wait because they were still processing everyone. We sat in the uncomfortable chairs and watched everything happening around us. That's when I saw Philip being walked down the hall by an older woman who must have been his grandmother. She had her arm around his shoulders, and he looked even smaller than usual. He glanced at me as they passed, and his eyes were red and puffy from crying. The terror on his face made my stomach hurt. They took him into another room with Detective McLean. About 10 minutes later, I watched Aiden walk past with his parents. His usual confidence was completely gone, and he stared at the floor as he walked. His dad looked mad enough to explode, and his mom was wiping her eyes with a tissue. They went into Gary's office and closed the door. We could hear raised voices but couldn't make out the words. The detective interviewed Aiden for over an hour, while the rest of us were finally allowed to leave. The hallway was packed with families trying to get their kids and leave. Everyone was talking.